From the Ticats Audio Network, this is the Ticats This Week with RJ Broadhead and Luke Tasker.
Ticats This Week is back. After the bye week, the Tiger Cats are 3-9, 4 points behind Montreal for second, 8 points behind Toronto for first place in the East Division, and the Tiger Cats have 6 games to play. So an important third left of the season for the Tiger Cats. They're the only East Division team playing this week. The rest of the division has a bye, so there'll be a lot of eyes on the Tiger Cats, and it's a chance to make up some ground. So we'll see what they can do. Of course, I'm RJ Broadhead along with Luke Tasker. Luke, great to see you. How was the bye week for you?
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Everybody needs a little rest. It feels like a month ago that we were in the studio for Labor Game. So I'm excited to get back to the booth and Tim Hortons Field. It'll be great. Yes.
And hopefully the Tiger Cats got back to the drawing board. I did some research and I thought this was pretty interesting. So since you and I have been calling the Tiger Cats games, the Tiger Cats are undefeated coming out of a bye week. They're 3-0, so 2 byes last season. They won those games. This year, they've had 1 bye so far. They've won that, and going into all those bye weeks, they lost their games. So the trend is continuing, so we'll see if it does continue again for the Tiger Cats. So you always like a quirky stat. How about that one? I would say it's a good chance Tiger Cats win.
I think that stat may be loosely grounded in reality, though. You know, a week of rest may actually be tied into a win, but of course not the easiest opponent to come out of the bye week this time.
Okay, so I love that you take things literal. We've been joking around all season about the must wins. We know we're not there yet, but the playoffs. Your thoughts on it? If you take it literally, the playoffs are a distinct possibility still for the Tiger Cats.
Yep, absolutely. And, with Eastern opponents, still, in hand to be played in the future, that of course, keeps the Ticats reality, in control. But like we've talked about, I mean, it's just going to get harder and harder, not only mathematically, if they continue to lose, with each week, but emotionally and sort of as far as the team energy goes, you got to break that mold and break that habit of losing before you get too deep into this, September, October lineup.
For sure. So 4 points back of Montreal for second place, which is kind of what we're thinking the East Division. You want to finish in the top 2, but 8 points back of Toronto for first place. Is first place literally not impossible for the Tiger Cats, but logically, do you think first place is not attainable anymore?
I do not think the Ticats are going to end this season in first place, and that's just it's in part with the Ticats, and like you said, it's an 8-point difference between Toronto and Hamilton. But the Argonauts aren't playing terrible football. I mean, they're gonna I wouldn't expect them to lose out the rest of the season or anything like that. I mean, they're going to continue to get their wins where they can, and so. But it's not as important. I mean, you want a chance to make that CFL bracket of the playoffs, and any team in first, second, or third can get a chance to win that game. So, I don't think it's a failure just to lose out on first place, right? The Ticats just need to have a chance at the postseason.
I was on CFL this week, and a couple of West Division broadcasters were on and seemed to think that fourth in the West Division might be the best spot because you get the crossover, you can go through the East Division. But I did a little research. So right now, Saskatchewan is in that fourth spot. They're hosting the Grey Cup. We know the pressure that's on a host team, Tiger Cats last year, and they made it to the Grey Cup, which is great. But Saskatchewan's currently 6 points ahead of Hamilton. Here are their remaining games. They have the Elks tonight. Then they're in Winnipeg, in Hamilton, and a home-and-home with Calgary to end the regular season. That's not an easy schedule. So if the Tiger Cats can go on a bit of a streak here, I don't think the crossover is cemented in. Do you?
No, it seems like from the years that I was playing and the crossover started to become a reality, it seems like this year is maybe the most likely scenario at this point in the season than what we've seen in the past. And I don't know if I buy into the easiest pathway. No team has ever done it, as a crossover team. I just don't think.
And let me reiterate that they were West Division broadcasters, so they don't think much of the East Division.
On their high hill looking down to the east. Oh my goodness. It's not easy. It's not easy to travel all that way. And once you're in the postseason, who knows? Teams are going to be at their best and playing their best. I remember we were out of the playoffs, and I remember watching Sask almost beat Toronto in an Eastern final in a snowy game in Toronto. But they didn't end up doing it. It's just a hard road to travel. Of course, so is a Western final in Winnipeg as well. So, interesting. But I do think that we're going to see an East versus West Grey Cup this year. Although it might be an exciting moment in CFL history to have that crossover make their way to the championship game. I don't know. It's a hard run.
We know how passionate Tiger Cats fans are. Riders fans are the same way. I'd love to see the Tiger Cats go on a little bit of a run here and really put some pressure, because if the Tiger Cats can finish ahead of the fourth place team in the West Division, the Riders theoretically hosting the Grey Cup would not be in the playoffs. And, Saskatchewan would be losing their minds if hosting and they can't get into the Grey Cup. So the Tiger Cats have a chance to put a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, that would be interesting. Everyone's talked about, getting rid of the East West and having just the 6 best teams in the league make the playoffs. And it's kind of years like this and Eastern divisions like this that kind of make that conversation maybe hold some water. Again, though, it's just to travel all that way to play, 2 games, to then go back west for the Grey Cup. It's a long 3-week stretch to maintain health and focus and to be playing at your best. I don't know. Really, really interesting, to think about. I think it through though.
Yeah. It'll all be clear soon enough as the season progresses. Final 6 games coming up for the Tiger Cats. Let's dig into Saturday's game. It's a 4:00 start at Tim Hortons Field. We hope to see a packed house, a ton of fans there supporting the Tiger Cats coming out of bye week. Like I said earlier, since we've been calling games, Luke, they haven't lost coming out of a bye week. So this could be good, but it is Winnipeg, the 2-time defending champions. They're very good. We know that. They're 12-1, but they've already secured a playoff spot. They could secure a home field playoff game, which I'm sure they're going to. But if they beat the Tiger Cats and Calgary loses, that would secure it for them this week. Is there a point where a team is in the playoffs, they've clinched, that they take the foot off the gas a little bit? Could this be an advantage for the Tiger Cats, that Winnipeg's not as desperate?
I kind of doubt it at this point. That to secure the first place, is still something that a team will stay hungry for. I remember in 2019 when we were able to do that with some games left to be played in the season, and that after that point, I would say a little bit. I think you're going to see guys getting rested. Especially guys like Zach Collaros getting rested at times. And maybe a little bit of it's almost inevitable that you kind of have, as that being in that team's shoes, a little bit of a, okay, we have 5 weeks or whatever it'll be until we play a game that's going to matter really for our Grey Cup chances. And that does change your mentality a little bit. And that's a reward that you get for being that team in that position. But prior to that point, it really means something to play for a bye week, to play for a free game check that team gets, that first week of playoffs when they're not playing a game. So I kind of don't think this week that the Ticats are going to benefit from playing a team that maybe has their foot off the gas a little bit. But it is going to be interesting to see who's lining up against Winnipeg, through that last month, and each week what team gets to sort of potentially benefit from just that,
free game check. You get paid for the bye week.
Oh yeah, the whole.
I didn't know that. Makes sense.
Yeah, the playoff checks are all slated at, it's all written in stone already, and so whatever team, has the bye gets paid just like the two teams that are playing. So
that's a good deal. That's incentive.
Oh yeah.
So with Winnipeg, you're not anticipating we're gonna see some subs come in if it's a close game?
I would be kind of shocked. I mean, I think they have every reason to keep playing, especially knowing that, if they had players really banged up and we were closer to the playoffs where they said, even we got to rest them no matter what. I don't think so. There's so much time left still. Even if you get banged up in a game like this against Hamilton, they've got all the cards in their deck still to play. As far as resting guys and doing what they have to do to get ready for the playoffs.
Okay, so I was hoping to hear that Winnipeg would roll over, but of course they're not gonna. No. Good news for the Tiger Cats though. Coming out of a bye week, there's some healthier players. Still a lot of guys injured, but I think a big story is Dane Evans listed as the number 1 quarterback. Matt Schultz listed as the number 2 quarterback. Let's talk about Dane getting in there, getting the start. How important is this for the Tiger Cats heading into the final third of the season?
Yeah, and you got to keep him healthy. He's going to be the answer, and with Matt Schultz out, it's going to be Dane is going to be their chance to carry them into the postseason. And, obviously there's so many mistakes that everyone would like to have back from this part from early on in the season. And it comes down to the basics that we've talked about, throughout the year. Having some quick answers, being able to get the ball out of Dane's hand and into the playmakers' hands efficiently and early, and I think it's going to be a lot on this offensive line. Winnipeg has an impressive front four and linebacking core. Really, that front five for Hamilton has to be able to protect Dane and not keep the pressure off of him, especially quickly in these downs where that they go hand in hand. If that quarterback feels that rush coming quickly, play after play, that's when he might start thinking and overthinking and forcing the ball to go places quickly because he doesn't expect to have the time to make a proper read. And so, Dane's efforts along with his front five and that pass protection is just that's going to be the key to their offensive success.
So that brings up a couple of things to my mind. First of all, great Coach O show with Luke Tasker this week. Of course, if any of our listeners or viewers haven't heard it, Ticats Audio Network, Luke speaks with Coach O, very candid. You guys both really put into perspective this final third of the season. I thought you said something and Orlando agreed with you. Have some fun. Got to still have fun no matter what the record is, right?
Got to. There's no, it's funny actually. I started saying this to Zach when he was in Hamilton, and I would say it to Jeremiah as we took the field and Dane. And before the game, and I was very, very, really authentic. Really hit me, in a real sense. And I remember saying to the quarterbacks, I was going, if we don't go out there and have fun, I would rather not play. Nobody's making us do this. There's so many jobs I could go be unhappy with. I promise you, I'm going to go out there and have fun today. And it's the best to do. It's a game. If you're not having fun, you're not totally in the right headspace, in my opinion. And players are different. Everybody's different. Some guys have an anger motivation, and that works for a physical sport like football. And there's times where I remember that as well, and you can play good doing that. But for me, whether playoffs, no playoffs, preseason, Grey Cup, you gotta enjoy playing football and being a football player. And I think I mentioned this to Louis Butko earlier this week in one of our podcasts, and I think to be honest, I think Dane is naturally that way. He enjoys this game. He loves this game. He grew up with the game, and I think that you see times where his excitement on a big play and his excitement with his teammates is coming from that place of really enjoying the game. and I'm excited to see that this weekend.
Yeah, and whatever the statistics are right now for Dane, he can totally change everything with a great final 6 games. And it's funny how fans and everybody else will forget what happened earlier in the season if these final 6 are successful.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, nothing, cures your wounds, like winning a game. That's all it takes. And the whole season we've been talking about the same things. It's not a bad team just losing games. It's just been these little tweaks, and all you got to do is get a couple of them right in a game,
Yeah.
And we'll see. On the flip side of that, Winnipeg doesn't just blow every team out of the water, right? Like they're not just winning by 30 points every game. They're making things happen at the end of the game in an impressive fashion, and they do limit mistakes, and they do have a much healthier turnover ratio. But they are just a bunch of football players executing pretty well right now. So there's no reason that another team can't go out there and execute a little bit better on a given day.
Yeah, you can't quantify knowing how to win, and teams that have done it seem to know how to pull those games out. I want to talk about the offensive line, Luke. 60% of the starting offensive line is currently on the injured list, with Chris Van Zyl, Travis Vornkall, and center Alex Fontana. So they're missing 3 guys. When you look at who the Tiger Cats are going to have against this very strong Winnipeg defense, Brandon Revenberg, he's really the only longtime Tiger Cat, and it's important to have him on that offensive line. But Coulter Woodmansey, he's in his 2nd year. Colin Kelly, David Beard, they were acquired through trades. Tyrone Riley, he's a rookie. He's getting his 3rd start. So you mentioned how important this offensive line is. Is there any concern that there is a bit of inexperience as far as being with the Tiger Cats?
There's a huge concern. I mean, it's the truth. You gotta, that position group, we've said before, RJ, that position group maybe requires the most on-field communication. In my opinion, it goes between the offensive line and the defensive backfield as far as the guys who have to communicate at the line of scrimmage together and make adjustments. And every single play, the offensive line is talking to each other, effectively in code sometimes. I mean, they have their own language, that they have to identify and make decisions as to protections and responsibilities. A guy like David Beard, though a new Ticat, that's a good signing in my opinion, by Hamilton, and we'll see how he progresses. And he's still just in his first couple handfuls of games with the Ticats, and in that position specifically at center is sort of the leader of that group. So we'll see how they can, sharpen their communication and the efficiency of all the things they have to handle in those short seconds before a play. And once the play's in motion, it's a dance up there. They have to work together, and, each footstep is calculated. It's a lot of moving pieces, and so hard to do and get right. And like we mentioned, especially hard to do against a really good Winnipeg rush. Excited to see those matchups on Saturday.
Yes, for sure. Don Jackson banged up. He's not going to play. I'm a big Wes Hills fan. What I like about Wes Hills is it seems one guy can't tackle him. That has to be a group effort for the opposition, and that maybe could establish a bit of a run game. Wes Hills in there against Winnipeg, do you feel it might be out of necessity with injuries, but I like it. What do you think?
It seems like the Ticats, that's one position where they have good depth. Sean Thomas, Earlington, Don Jackson, Wes Hills. They've got a number of running backs that I think can be productive. Wes Hills is probably the guy we've seen the least amount of action from. I think there's got to be an expectation of effectiveness in the pass protection with Wes Hill as well. And that's just as much physical as it is mental from that position as well. I remember guys who really, it's not about their size and strength. They really couldn't mentally plug in. They have to all of a sudden be a part of that communication with the front five that we were just referring to. They've got to be really tuned in to where they're supposed to help in that pass protection. And I think you got to expect that Tommy Condell is looking for a little bit of assistance there from Wes Hills. And then, of course, he's going to get a chance to run the ball, too. And you and I both, I remember early this season seeing him run and kind of saying, wow, that is some legitimate downhill speed. And that makes him hard to tackle. Boy, it's an amazing web of factors for a football game, and that Wes Hills it has to bring a little bit of productivity on the ground running the ball to alleviate that pressure on the offense to say we have to pass every single play. We have every second down we have to get 8 yards. If he can put that second down average yardage into a little bit more favorable, that 5 yards or less, it's just hugely important for the offensive line's duty and having to protect that on that heavy rush. And of course, Dane and Tommy Condell's responsibilities of executing in favorable positions on second down. So, Wes Hill, he's going to be a guy we talk about tomorrow and how he can impact this game positively.
Yeah, I wanted to bring him up because I agree. I think he will have an impact, and it adds cred to Ticats this week when, if he does produce, we talked about it. We know what we're talking about.
There you go. We'll bring it up in the broadcast.
Yeah, well, yeah, a little cross promotion. I also went through the injured list, and I thought it was pretty interesting. And I wonder about your experience. So 14 players are on the Tiger Cats injury list, 3 on the 1 game, 11 on the 6 game. And all 14 would be starters and important pieces either on offense, defense, or special teams. So offensive line, Van Zyl, Vornkal, Fontana. 3 guys who would be starting. Special teams, Lawrence Woods. He's been a difference maker, but he's injured. Nick Cross, Curtis Newton, they're special teams captains. Defense, Julian Hauser won't play. Of course, Simone Lawrence is out. Ciante Evans has been great with knockdowns this year. Running back Don Jackson, fullback Jake Burt, who I believe got injured on his biggest gain of the year, which was unfortunate. And then receivers, Braylon Addison, Tyler Turnowski, Canadian receiver, just looking like he was coming into his own. Anthony Johnson might be the guy that you could argue maybe wouldn't be a starter, but I argue he probably would be right now. Played in 1 game, had 2 receptions for 66 yards and a touchdown. Pretty good production for 1 game. So 14 important players are injured. Tiger Cats will never make an excuse, but when you really break down that injury list, is it too much to overcome all those starters on the 6 or 1 game injured list?
Not if Dane Evans can have a great performance in the game. Yeah. I think that really does overcome some of those things. Now, specifically that 60% injured starters on the offensive line, that directly affects Dane's ability to have a solid performance, but it is overcomable, I think. And to be fair, you almost have to balance that injury report off the other teams in the league. And I think Coach O the whole year, his sort of mentality towards that has been not so much the numbers, but where it's happened. And that's what you're getting to there is how many starters, and especially the offensive line. I like the depth on the Ticats defense. I think that defensive secondary has shown an ability to sort of plug and play with a lot of guys in a lot of positions. Simone Lawrence is there's a lot of intangible damage done when a guy like that's missing from the lineup. We'll see. It still just comes down to executing. You see a guy like Anthony Johnson come in and score a touchdown, and he was in there due to injury, and of course, so I think you trust some of these young guys to come in and do their jobs, but it has got to be good plays and execution compounding on other, execution. So we'll see.
Yeah, it is significant when you look at it. I haven't gone through all the other teams' injury lists, but I would argue that no other team has 14 players who would be starting on their injury list. But can't confirm that for sure. It's an educated guess. Our game is at 4:00, of course, at Tim Hortons Field. It's Canadian Hall of Fame induction weekend, and it's the Hall of Fame game. Some big names, Ricky Ray, Paul McCallum, Chip Cox, Dave Ritchie, Roy Shivers, Keith Evans, Dick Thornton, Tim Tyndale. They'll all be honored at halftime, so it'll be a special game. It's Winnipeg visiting Hamilton. Just your final thoughts on this game, Luke. We're into the final third of the season. It's very, very important that the Tiger Cats find a way to get them back into the playoff race in the East Division. Rest of the East Division is idle. It's a chance to make up some ground, but it is Winnipeg. And Winnipeg's 12-1, and Winnipeg has won some big games against the Tiger Cats, we know, over the past couple of seasons. What are you thinking about this game? What are your thoughts?
The Ticats this season have had a hard time. Once things start going wrong in a game, they just snowball into disaster. That is sort of a learned thing. You know, there are teams like Winnipeg that when things go wrong, the game's not over. You know, and the Ticats have to have a level of experience, a level of moxie, a certain energy about them to say when something goes wrong, if it's a turnover, if it's just a couple 2-and-outs in a row, something like that, to keep a level, an even pendulum, to keep even keeled, and to just get back at, to make a couple plays in a row after that. You know, we'll see. It's it's a rematch of last year's Grey Cup, right in the same stadium. It's a exciting time, and the Hall of Fame weekend is going to make it a fun game day experience. Tim Tyndale was a teammate of my dad's, actually, with the Bills for a while. That's kind of cool. And of course, Ricky Ray is one of the all-time greats and a great guy. Excited to see all those guys. Chip Cox was one of the hardest defensive backs to go against. I mean, he was just unbelievably quick and physical, and a really just amazing all-around football player. He was the kind of guy who would be on special teams units well into his career, still starting on defense. And what a fun weekend to see all those guys go in.
Yes, and for Tiger Cats fans, a win would make it even more fun. Luke, great chatting with you. I can't wait for the game. They're all important now, so get your rest, and we'll see you for the call at 4:00.
Can't wait. We'll see you up there. Mike Filer is going to be the alumnus of distinction on the field. We should get him up to the booth for a little banter. But gonna be great to see him around the stadium as well. This will be a fun Ticats day tomorrow. And you're right, a win would really make it a great special day.
Yeah, I got to meet Mike Filer at Grey Cup and got to know him a little bit, so he's definitely welcome up there. And so huge game. We know that. Ticats game day with Courtney Stephen and Mike Daly will kick off our coverage at 3:00. It's the pregame show with Bubba O'Neill and Andy Fantuz, and Luke and I will have the call at 4:00. It is the Bombers visiting the Tiger Cats. Hope to see you at Tim Hortons Field, and be loud and support your Tiger Cats. We appreciate you listening to Ticats This Week. You're all set for the big game on Saturday.
It's been another busy week for your Hamilton Tiger Cats. Luke Tasker and RJ Broadhead have covered it all, and now we would like to hear from you. Email us anytime at gameday@ticats.ca. Subscribe to the Ticats Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.